So welcome everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's YU Career Center Professional Series webinar. My name is Todd Lotchbike. I'm the Director of Employer and Alumni Relations within the Career Center. And essentially what my role does is I manage the relationships with employers and alumni, specifically for student recruiting services. And throughout this presentation, I'm going to tell you all about what my team does, how we interface with the career advising team, and essentially, give you the reasons why you should engage with our office, and also talk a little bit about, what the recruiting landscape is going to look like moving forward. I joined YU in November of 2018, but I do have about almost 14, almost 15 years experience in higher education, all throughout career services. I started my career as a career advisor. I did that for about 6 years. I actually then worked in industry for a little bit at an organization called Eastern Mountain Sports, which you may or may not be familiar with, but they're the second largest outdoor retailer in the United States in operations. But I did miss working in higher education. I missed working with students, and I missed that sort of, that environment of academia. So I came back, and now I am at YU, and I am very happy to be here because we have an amazing student population who then become an amazing alumni population, and that's who I deal with every single day, and it's a pleasure to do so. So what the Career Center does, and if you're not familiar with us, you definitely should be. Our vision is we support you as a student as the future leaders of tomorrow. And what we really try and do is create a partnership with you to help you think strategically about what your career goals are and how you're going to get there. So whether that is creating a resume for the first time, or creating an action plan, or offering advice on networking or who to reach out to, that's really what the Career Center does. If you're a returning student, I hope you have utilized our services in the past. If you are a new student, I definitely hope you will, in the coming months, or even in the coming weeks or so. And just to give me an idea of who we have in the audience today, and it is a little bit of an intimate audience, which is okay. It looks like we have 4 students on the call. If you could please use the chat function to message me directly as to what your class level and major is. And I'll give everybody a couple of minutes or a minute or two to do that. Okay, we have accounting and BEMA, which is great. Finance, management, junior. Great. If anyone is a liberal arts major, please message me. So I'll know to target something towards that population. Okay, it does look primarily like business. Great. So I bet the number one question on everybody's mind is, what has happened over the past 6 months with recruiting? And everybody knows the world temporarily closed, right? This is not news to anybody. And recruiting did stop in some respects, but in many ways, it also continued, with adjustments. Obviously, everything went virtual. And again, this is not news to anybody. Everybody's been living in a virtual world, essentially, for the past 6 months or so, or since March. And recruiting has also taken that path. What we have seen is, some of the students interning over this past summer at the smaller firms did have their internships canceled. Some students that had plans to intern overseas in Israel physically were canceled, and they had to scramble at the last minute to find something to gain experience this summer. Students at the larger firms, and I'm talking, the Fortune 500 companies and the Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanleys and EYs and things like that, their programs moved online. They may have been a little bit shorter, as opposed to the traditional 12 or 10 or 12 weeks or so. They went down to 4 weeks, but at least the students were able to have that sort of virtual experience online. One silver lining that has come out of this, and I do expect it to continue for the foreseeable future, is new opportunities are actually opening up for students. And particularly, for students looking for opportunities in different geographic areas than where they are located. And a prime example of that is Israel. Over this past summer, I believe we had a little over 50 students intern for Israeli startups, nonprofits, all sorts of different types of organizations, but virtually. And that sort of opportunity would not have been available to them, had the unfortunate circumstances of the pandemic occurred. So you need to, as you kind of approach this recruiting season, or as you start to think about, what your career goals are over the next year or 2 years or so, it's a good idea to be adaptable and look for these sort of silver linings and opportunities that present themselves, which may not have been able to occur in the past. One piece of good news is the job offers for 2021 actually have continued. The students that actually did do their internships over this past summer, and traditionally, if you're doing a business internship, that internship between your junior and senior year is the very, very important one. And that's the one where you're probably going to get a full-time job offer from. Those students that completed those internships over this past summer are still getting their offers. Of course, assuming that they did well at their internships, which they did. So at least that hasn't changed at all. So what is recruiting going to look like for the near future? It's still going to be virtual. Again, this isn't news to anybody. I mean, YU may be coming back on a hybrid model starting in October, hopefully, which we're all very much hoping for. But as far as recruiting goes, it's still going to be virtual. Some organizations did have to consolidate their human resources departments a little bit, so they're a little bit understaffed. They're obviously not going to be traveling to campuses and things like that. So it's still all going to be virtual. However, there may actually be some opportunities for interning in person. We are starting to see some postings come into Yeshiva University Career Link, which is our job posting board, which hopefully that are offering an option of coming to an office in person. Again, it's optional if it is something you want to do and you do want to actually physically go into an office. We are starting to see those sorts of opportunities come in. I expect them to be even greater starting in the spring semester. We are starting to see some shifted timelines. So some organizations that may have recruited over the spring have now pushed it to this fall. Some organizations that would have been recruiting this fall are now pushing it to this spring. So it's very important to pay attention to recruiting timelines, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and especially the emails that are generated from the ER team and the Career Center, alerting you of when these sorts of deadlines are going to occur. Again, one thing I'm going to try to emphasize over the course of this presentation is flexibility, adaptability, and urgency. These are the things that you're going to need to be, as you kind of navigate this very sort of uncertain, challenging time over the next, 6 to 12 months or so. As far as the Career Center events, all of our fairs, all of our on-campus interviewing, all of our info sessions, all of our site visits, everything is going to be virtual. Again, even though some students may be coming back to campus in October, we still have to accommodate students that are choosing to stay home or can't come to campus. So all of the recruiting and employer relations, all that sort of programming is going to be entirely virtual over the fall semester. I will give you a sneak preview of some of the things we have planned a little bit later. So are you ready for this? I'd like to think you are, because I'd like to think, just the fact that you're attending this presentation, you have the initiative to succeed, and you kind of want to make sure that you're on the right path to navigate what's going to happen over the course of the next 6 to 12 months or so. And in reality, how you prepare for recruiting this fall or next spring, it's really not that much different than you would if you were doing it in person. The same sort of principles and foundations apply, in preparedness, in career preparedness and getting ready for, applications and interviews and all that sort of stuff. One thing that might be a little bit more important is company research. Everybody knows they need to do the research on the organizations that they're interested in. So whether it's following them on LinkedIn, if it's looking them up on Vault, if it's, going to the company website, which is a very obvious one. I mentioned those sort of shifting deadlines and timelines a few minutes ago. So you need to pay attention to this stuff. The Career Center and my team on the employer relations team, we're going to communicate all this stuff to you, but you need to be willing and able, to search out this information on your own, so you're prepared to actually jump, when you see applications start to open. And with that being said, you need to make sure your application documents are good to go. Perhaps you, or create a resume, so perhaps you did an internship over the summer. I sincerely hope that your resume has been updated with that experience. If you're a new student and you don't have a resume, and you don't know what to put on it, and you're thinking you don't have any experience, and a secret is you definitely do, no matter what your background is, you should definitely be making an appointment with a career advisor to get that document ready and get that process started. Because once you have it ready to go, it's ready to go, and you could use it for applications. It's honestly not uncommon for us to find out about an alum wants to refer students to some amazing opportunity at some firm. I'll use Blackstone, the financial firm, as a recent example, where he didn't find out the information until very late. So he communicated to us late, and we had to turn around resumes to him in 48 hours. So if we send that out and you don't have a document ready to go, and you're like, oh, I need to meet with a career advisor, you're going to miss out on the opportunity. So you need to make sure that you have this sort of stuff ready to go at a moment's notice, because otherwise you're going to regret it. So make sure they're ready to go, please. I definitely need to emphasize that. And with that being said, pay attention to YU Career Center emails. It is the Career Center policy that we only communicate with students using your official YU email address. So I understand everybody likes Gmail or whatever service you use. I do too. But for privacy purposes and Federal Educational Rights and Privacy Act, we do communicate with students solely through their YU emails. So if you're not using that, make sure it's forwarded to your Gmail, or that you're checking it every day, because you don't want to miss something simply because you missed the email. And lastly, use the Career Center resources. I'm going to go over a ton of them. Again, if you're a returning student, I hope you have in the past. And if you're a new student, please do. I mean, we're absolutely here for you. We are invested in your success. So take advantage of the resources that are available. So you're going to be interviewing virtually. Even if you're not interviewing this fall for something, probably in the spring, you're going to be interviewing virtually as well. And even before this whole pandemic, virtual interviews were gaining more and more popularity. Because again, think about, I'm Goldman Sachs, and I'm going to recruit from, 50 schools across the United States. Am I going to send my HR team to all 50 schools, or can they just sit in the office and have these interviews virtually? So even regardless of the pandemic, you need to be very comfortable with interviewing virtually. Some of the very obvious things: dress professionally, at least from the waist up, and that goes for any interview, whether it's in person or virtual. Make sure you have a good internet connection. Right now, the networks are being overloaded. I was actually a little bit concerned about mine today because I've been having problems all day. And interestingly, a little anecdote, one of my colleagues mentioned earlier that theirs was also very slow. And then we realized that with all these thousands of students now going to school, not only in university and college, but also, K through 12, these networks are being overloaded. So it's definitely important to make sure you have a good connection before an interview. And obviously a plain basic background, You don't want to draw, you want the attention, during an interview, whether it's in person or virtual, to be on you and nothing else in your background or that sort of thing. Something that might be not so obvious is you need to practice, and I mean, even more so than a mock interview that you might do with a career advisor. You should do an actual recorded virtual interview. The Career Center does have a tool specifically for that purpose. It's called Big Interview. If you'd like to learn more about it, definitely reach out to a career advisor or drop in the live chat, and they're more than happy to direct you to it. But it's good to see yourself, in a virtual environment. Like, what are your mannerisms? What are your facial expressions like? Are you giving eye contact? Even though the eye contact is with the camera, it's still very important. But if you have yourself recorded, you could really take a step back and kind of nitpick yourself, which you need to do in an interview situation, before it's an actual, live one-on-one interview and things like that. And even do it with a friend, a trusted friend that's willing to give you constructive criticism and give that sort of feedback. It could be anybody, but it's really just important that you do practice, before you actually get into a live situation. And everybody needs to have their career toolbox. I'm sure everybody's familiar with all these sorts of things, but a resume, as I mentioned, it needs to be updated or created now. I did see some first-time on-campus students reply to my question earlier. So if you don't have a resume, please make an appointment with a career advisor or drop in live chat to get one started. You may be thinking, wow, I haven't done anything. All I've done is I worked at a camp, or, I haven't really done anything. I worked at my family's business or whatever, and nobody wants to, nobody cares about that. Nobody wants to see it on a resume. That is not true. Anything you've done in the past can translate to something you want to do in the future. It's all about how you apply those concepts on your resume and make sure that it tells your story in regards to what you're applying to. And the Career Center can definitely help you with that. You may have a resume though, and you're kind of like, oh, it needs to be super creative or something like that. Simpler is better, theoretically, like in most generally speaking, with a resume. If you're not sure, again, please just run it by a career advisor before you actually start using it to apply for positions. Cover letters. A question we often get is, are cover letters necessary? Can you help me write a cover letter? And the answer to that question is, it depends. Some people will tell you, like some recruiters or alumni will say, I don't want to see a cover letter. It's just I don't have enough time to read them, and it's not important. On that complete opposite end, some may say, if a student doesn't apply with a cover letter, I don't even want to see their resume, because it's them giving the extra step as part of their application, and that means more to me. So it depends. One thing I will say about cover letters, though, is it's very, very important that you tailor them to each position that you're applying for. I know many students think, I'm going to have this general cover letter. I'm just going to change the name of the company and the name of the position, who it's addressed to, and that's going to be my cover letter. You could do that, but it's not going to get you anywhere. It really does need to be tailored to the position, and even more so if you actually have the job description, to incorporate those sorts of things in your actual cover letter. So it's just something that's very important. And again, as you're developing these things, if you see something that requires a cover letter or a letter of interest or any sort of thing, definitely come to the Career Center or come to live chat. Speak with one of us, and we are more than happy to help you with that sort of thing. LinkedIn profiles were important. They've been super important for many, many years now. I do expect them to be even more important, in the future, because everything's going to be virtual. Hopefully you do have a LinkedIn profile at this point. If you don't, you definitely need to create one. Just think about it. When you apply somewhere, or an alum gets your resume from my office, like from our office, and we send it over there, and they're like, okay, this looks good. What do you think the first thing they do is? They're probably Googling your name, right? Or they're looking you up on LinkedIn to see who you're connected to see what sort of companies you're following. Did you put some effort into your LinkedIn? Is it just a complete copy of your resume? Perhaps you were able to put some more personal information on your LinkedIn, which you're allowed to do. it is appropriate to do so so they get a little bit better idea of who you are. Maybe you have some recommendations on your LinkedIn that this individual can read. Super important stuff, like super, super important stuff. So even if you think you have a pretty good LinkedIn, I still recommend a review from somebody in the Career Center, because it's a super important part of your career toolbox. And in some ways, it's as important, if not more important than your resume, because you could tell a lot better story about somebody from their LinkedIn page, if done correctly, than just a simple piece of paper with a bunch of facts on it. And I hope that makes sense to everybody. Another part of your career toolbox are the career events. You know, we produce a ton of events from the Career Center, both on the career advising side and the employer relations side. We host several sort of fairs and meet and greets per semester. You know, most imminent is the Finance, Fintech, and Accounting Fair on September 9th. And if you are interested in any of those areas, or even want to learn a little bit more about them, I definitely encourage you to attend. It's a completely virtual event. You do have to RSVP for it. It is 99% recommended that you have a resume when you attend that. So if you don't have one, make sure you get it. But if you need more information on that, you could reach out to myself or a member of my team, and we're happy to do that. We also have a technology meet and greet later in the semester, which is primarily for data and computer science and, you know, those sorts of disciplines. And if you are liberal arts, we do have the nonprofit gap year and volunteer fair, which occurs in November or so. We do try to hit all populations with that. We also offer networking opportunities. Traditionally, these are sort of mingles and employer site visits. We can't do that this fall due to the pandemic, but we will be doing them virtually, where there's sort of virtual info sessions or virtual tours of employer places of business and that sort of thing. And then we also have our Meet a Professional program, which I'll talk about a little bit later, which is geared towards more towards the liberal arts disciplines. We will be doing on-campus interviewing this fall. It's called on campus because that's what everybody knows it by, but it's obviously going to be virtual. Depending on the organization, everybody's going to have different sorts of timelines and things like that. But as an example, Deloitte is doing their info sessions next week, or coffee chats, or whatever they're calling. But you could expect to see, you know, more of that sort of thing moving forward. I do have the link to the events calendar there. Everything is published there. You get emails from Barbara Lerman, who I'll show a picture of later. I'm sure you know who she is, but if not, you definitely will. But there's numerous places to find out about these sorts of visits. Other research and preparedness resources are Vault. You do have access to that as a student. So when you're doing your company research, or, you know, let's say you're interested in consulting and all you've heard of is Accenture, McKinsey, and you know, Boston Consulting Group, but there are other consulting firms out there, and there's some really good ones and ones that would be an amazing career. You know, Vault has these sorts of you know, top 50 companies and industry lists, all sorts of resources for that, like salary guides, like all sorts of things. And you do have access to that as a YU student. You also have access to the YU Career Center Canvas course. I do have a link there where you could jump right into it. Hopefully you're a member of it already, but if not, you know, please join it. We do have major and industry guides for every primary major and industry that Yeshiva University serves. So if you are undeclared at the moment, which I did see one, I believe, then you're not sure of what you can do with a psychology degree. Like maybe you want to do psychology and minor in management or something like that. All these sorts of resources are available to you, and I encourage you to take advantage of them. We also do have select recruiting timelines there, which I will give examples of in just a moment. So if you're a finance student, or you're interested in finance and you're not sure when you should be applying to things, or you're an accounting student and maybe you want to go get your MS afterwards, so you're on a 5-year track, like what's the difference between a 4-year track? Those sorts of things are there for you. And the sooner you learn about, you know, what you should be doing when, the better off you're going to be, and the better off you're going to be able to plan. I did mention Big Interview earlier. That is our mock interview virtual platform. In today's world, super applicable, super important. Please use it. We also have a new service called JobScan. And what JobScan is, so when you apply to, let's say you're applying to, I don't know, I'll use Morgan Stanley as an example. You may get a referral from an alum, or we may send your resume direct, but what if we don't have it that semester for whatever reason, they're not recruiting directly from Yeshiva University. You're going to apply online, right? You're going to go to the Morgan Stanley website, you're going to go to their career site, you're going to look at the internship, and then you're going to apply online. When you submit a resume online to Morgan Stanley or any sort of organization, it goes into something called an applicant tracking system, or ATS. That ATS is the first thing that screens your resume. So perhaps this position requires somebody that's familiar or proficient with Excel. And they also need to know, some sort of other software platform or something like that. If you don't have that on your resume, that ATS is going to throw your resume away before it even got to an actual human to look at it. So what JobScan does is you can upload an actual job description and upload your resume, and it will tell you what you need to have on your resume to match what's in that job description. It's super effective. I have seen examples of some resumes that have gone through this process, and you should take advantage of it. It's actually kind of an amazing tool, and it's very, very applicable to business and computer science majors. So if that is something you're interested in, you do have to meet with a career advisor in order to get that process done. Please do so, or if you'd just like more information on what JobScan is, if I didn't explain it well enough, please reach out to me and I'll get you that information. Yeshiva University Career Link is our job posting board. Again, hopefully you're familiar with that, but if you're not, that is a link to it. That is our primary means of job postings. So when you're applying to something, whether it's posted from somebody external or we're posting it and we're collecting resumes, it will be on YCL. You do need to have an approved resume in YCL in order to apply to anything. So again, that goes back to make sure you have it ready to go and make sure it's good and approved. All students, regardless of whether you just started this semester, you should have an existing account already. They were imported yesterday, I believe. If for whatever reason you can't log in, please reach out to me or the General Career Center email, and we'll make sure you have access to it. Excuse me, I was just taking a drink of water. And lastly, the YUC Career Advising Team. Combined, they probably have close to, see if I can figure out this calculation. Probably close to 80 years combined of career advising experience. And many of them, at YU for a very, very long time. So please, take advantage of them. Like, we are here to help you. Like, we're here to partner with you. We're not going to hand you a job. No career center in the world is going to do that, but we will make sure that we do everything we can to make sure that you actualize your goals, but it's up to you to actually engage with us in order to make that happen. So I ask that you please do that. So this is just an example of finance recruiting timeline. If you are first time on campus this semester and you're interested in finance, some of the larger firms will be recruiting next spring for summer 2022, which seems crazy early, but that's just the way it is right now. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it is available on Canvas and you can take a look at it there, but we also have some of the top banking and finance firms. We do have alumni representation at pretty much all these, so definitely think beyond just the Goldman Sachs and the Morgan Stanley and JP Morgans, because there are fantastic careers available at countless firms, but again, please do the research and find out, what sort of cultures and things that you're interested in. This is another document available in Canvas, which is the accounting recruiting timeline. There are 2 tracks, so if you're on the 5-year MS track or the BS track, if you're first time on campus this semester and you're planning on the 4 years, then you're going to be recruiting for leadership next spring. If you're not familiar with what leadership is, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to explain it to you, but essentially it's a very, very short-term program at, the Big Four primarily that will lead into a summer internship. If you are on the 5-year track, you do have a little bit more time as exemplified on the document on the screen. But again, this is available in Canvas and I encourage you to look at it there. This is just a plug for the Finance, Fintech, and Accounting Fair. It will be September 9th from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. You absolutely do need to RSVP for this. Otherwise, you will not gain access to the virtual platform. So please do so. You need to do so through YCL. There is a link there, but if you're not, if you can't access it or you have other questions, again, please reach out to me. We would be happy to see you there. 2 other programs that I'd like to mention is YU MVP. If you attended the new student presentation yesterday, you have heard about this, so I apologize for repeating it, but if you haven't, these are very, very important. YU MVP is our virtual mentoring platform. We have over 220 alumni in there across all majors, all sorts of career levels from, just right out to 40 years experience or so. And they are in there specifically to mentor current students. So if you're interested in EY or you're interested in Accenture, you can log into MVP, YU MVP, search for individuals at these organizations and contact them directly. I can't tell you how many times students come to the Career Center and they're like, oh, do you know anybody at blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah. We do, and they're in YU MVP, and you have access to these people, any time of day, 24 hours a day. So please, if you do not have a YU MVP account, go ahead and register. It's super easy to use. So please take advantage of those resources. I did mention the MAPS program, or Meet a Professional. It is launching fall 2020. These are going to be geared more towards, liberal arts students, like the liberal arts majors, with some business thrown in there. Because a lot of our other programming is geared towards the sort of business majors, and I fully acknowledge that, but that's only because they do have such sort of rigid, and very disciplined timelines. But if you are a liberal arts major, please look out for these MAPS programs because it will give you the opportunity to interact with alumni in areas outside of business. I also just want to take an opportunity to introduce you to the other 2 members of the employer relations team besides myself. You may be familiar with them, you may not, but when you see emails come from the Career Center regarding these sorts of opportunities, they will come from either myself or these 2 individuals. Matthew Garcia is the Associate Director of Employer Relations and Alumni Programs. He heads all of the sort of mentoring platforms that we have, including MVP, which I just mentioned, and he's a great member of the team. And Barbara, and this picture perfectly represents Barbara's personality. If you don't know her, then you absolutely will know her, or you will definitely see her emails. Anything that comes from my office regarding recruiting events, it's going to come from Barbara usually, So please pay attention to them. Don't delete them. They're always worth a look, and chances are that you're going to eventually see something from her that you need to act on. So just pay attention to her emails. And I do see one student here that knows Barbara very well, so she could back me up. YCL has an app, so our posting site does have an app. You can scan that QR code right there if you'd like to have it downloaded to your phone. We do have virtual walk-in hours Monday through Thursday from 12:30 to 2:30 p.m. Traditionally we had actual walk-in hours, but we're going to be continuing them virtually. And we also have live chat now every day from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. on Fridays. So if you just have a simple question, you're like, I can't log into YCL, or I'm not sure what I need to do in regards to this one application, somebody is always available for you via live chat. Again, my name is Todd Lotchbike. If you have any questions whatsoever, or you just want to say hi or whatever, I love talking to students. There is my email address. I'm always available. I'm happy to hear from you. Tonight's slides will be available on Canvas, as well as the recording of this presentation available on the Career Center YouTube page, either tonight or tomorrow. And with that, I thank you very much for attending this, and I would like to answer any questions that you may have to the best of my ability. And if I don't know the answer, I will get it to you. And if you could please use the chat to ask any questions, because this is being recorded. I got some thank yous, but no questions, but that's okay. I did get one question, and it's typically, how long do we have to respond to a higher view request? And what higher view is it's a virtual platform where somebody will, like, let's say you apply to Deloitte, they'll like your resume, they will send you this higher view link, which you will have 48 hours to complete. And essentially what it is a recorded interview. You know, so typically you have about 48 hours to respond to something like that. Another question is, how do virtual cover letters work? I assume that you're referring to sort of a video cover letter. Is that correct? It is a video cover letter. Yeah. So that would be very similar to the higher view. Essentially, you're going to need to record yourself. You know, everybody's heard of the sort of elevator pitch or personal pitch, where you have about 30 seconds to 2 minutes to kind of promote yourself, like an advertisement to yourself. So it's going to be like that, essentially. So maybe you have a friend, you practice with a friend, or you practice with a career advisor or whomever, and then it's something that's actually recorded after the fact. I wouldn't think you would just read, like read to a camera of whatever cover letter you have. I think you could be a little bit more creative than that, but it would depend largely on the organization. I hope that answered your question. Yeah, but it's very similar to the higher view. Okay, if there's no other questions, or we'll close this out. Again, thank you very, very much for attending. If this is your first day of school at YU ever, welcome. I hope you had a great day, and I hope this was informative to everybody that was in attendance tonight. And again, please take advantage of us. We're here to help, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.